Hi, I'm Jennifer Quick with Soul Clarity Coaching, and you are here to ask the question, am I having a mental health issue or am I having a soul crisis? So let's explore it. I'd like to start by telling you my story. There was a time when I was just overwhelmed, frustrated, stressed, angry, a lot of anger, and really moody. A lot of anxiety and downright panic attacks. And I really was struggling to feel in control of my life. I felt like I was losing my mind. I went to the doctor. I had tests done, and they all came back I was fine. And the doctors just said, "Oh, you're just busy in life." That's all it was. So what was going on? It was back at a time I had 2 toddlers. I had a brand new house that I was actually building. And if anybody's built a house, they know there's a lot of work and stress around things going on when you build a house. There's also a lot of work, stress, and activity when you are raising toddlers, particularly young kids. And especially if they have any learning developments or physical developmental issues, and that adds a lot of stress to raising kids on top of the normal stress, and I was dealing with some of that. I was also an entrepreneur. My husband and I had been in business for a number of years, and we were entrepreneurs. So that was part of it. And anybody who's ever had a business or even done a large project knows there's a lot that goes with that. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, a lot that goes into being an entrepreneur. So that was really my life. And on top of that, I was having an identity crisis because I was stepping back from being so involved with the business and putting my efforts into raising the kids. I really wanted to make that my priority in life. And so the interesting thing that happened is society is not particularly welcoming and friendly to stay-at-home moms. And that's what I identified as. I know I was still working, but I really wasn't working that much at the time. And I was really dedicating myself to being the stay-at-home mom. I had also set, I set some pretty high standards for myself to being a mom. I was going against the norm of society. I was doing everything by the perfection books. I used cloth diapers. I watched what materials my kids were wearing. I watched I made all their own food. Organic, of course. I tried growing some on our property as well. I'm not a gardener, but I tried back then. And all the products that I used I was very aware of being toxic free in my environment, which, by the way, if you go to my YouTube channel, I just did a talk recently on detoxing with products. So with the Detox Queen, maybe check out that video and subscribe to me, support me on my YouTube. Anyhow, back to this story. So I was that mom, and it was very much in contrast to the area that I lived in because there wasn't anybody else who I knew who was doing the same things. And actually I did know a couple people, but they lived in the bigger cities and they had a lot more resources and they had a lot more support. And they were a help, and at the same time they also were a really good highlight as to where I was failing. So I felt like a failure as well. And all of this kind of condensed on me this contrast between myself and my environment. I didn't fit in my environment. The people around me thought I was crazy. They thought I was, being that hyper over crazy mother. And I felt really disregarded in value because I wasn't seen as a professional woman anymore. I had always been a professional. I used to wear a suit and high heels and go to the big skyscrapers in the city. And there's a certain level of respect that goes with jobs like that does not get given to young mothers. And I really felt that. I really felt that energy. And so I really had an identity crisis as well. Um, and I felt devalued, and I felt overwhelmed and frustrated, and so there was a lot going on, and I was really losing my mind. It was contributing to these mood swings. So anyhow, the doctors did the testing to find out whether it was my hormones or if I was having, dopamine issues or whatever. They did all that, and they came back and they said, "Nope, you're just busy." And really, they didn't have any answers for me. So onwards I went. Well, a friend suggested to me that I try Reiki. And that was my first step into energy healing and really doing spiritual work. Now, when I stepped into Reiki, it was really powerful. It gave me so level 1 gave me control over my own emotions. I was able to calm myself down and handle situations a little better. I went on to do level 2, and at level 2, I felt like I had a tool bag. It was like a lifeline that I could hold on to, and I was able to help my husband transition from work to home so that he could be a little bit better in his roles as a father and as a provider. I helped him with that transition. It helped me with my communication with him. It helped me with calming my kids and helping them through whatever they were going through. And it really became like a lifeline tool for me. And excuse me, it was a catalyst for me to keep going down that path. It just kept coming to me. Opportunities. I got an opportunity to become a Reiki master. I ended up getting an opportunity to become a Karuna Reiki. I did the Holy Fire 1, Holy Fire 2, Holy Fire 3. I did all of that as it came about. I ended up getting into the Akashic Records, learned how to read them, and then I learned how to do soul realignment, and then I learned how to do Akashic for businesses, and I learned how to do it for relationships and all these stuff. And then I went into what's called heart math, and I learned how to be a mindfulness instructor, and I learned how to be I just went on this path and onwards where I did my neuro-linguistic programming, and I did life coach. I took life coaching so I could figure out how to organize all this stuff to help. Right. So anyhow, that path unfolded to me all because Reiki started it by giving me that lifeline that helped me get control of my situation. Now, I have to say, this all unfolded about 18 years ago. So 20 years. It's never like a moment. It's a process, right? So it started probably about 20 years ago when I became a mom. And then it really peaked at, about 15 years ago, probably it really peaked. And that's when I discovered Reiki and started down that path. And it's been an absolute blessing ever since. But in the wisdom of hindsight, I can look back and I can say, I was in a soul crisis. And that soul crisis was not a mental health issue. It was a crisis because I had lost the identity of who I was. I didn't feel like I fit in. I could no longer wear a mask over top of myself when I went out to make myself more acceptable. I was really being called to live authentic to how what I thought was right and wrong. And really, I had always seen what was wrong in our society. And I have always been aware of how food sensitivities, I had my own issues with food sensitivities and the toxins we put into it, the toxins that are in our soil. I was aware of that. The farming issues, I was aware of that. Aware of the medical intervention. Medical has its place. But Western medical is the emergency. It's not the preventative. It's not the thriving health. It's meant to patch you up when the crisis hits. Well, I wanted to thrive. And so I've had all that experience in the past. But it really came together during this crisis. And I realized that I was in this contrast of how I wanted to be in life and who I really was, and to live authentically to myself was really not acceptable in my environment. And what happens with this is that so what creates this outer world around us is really our perception of it, which is created from 3 different channels. And I'm going to go through more explanation on this in my free gift that I have for you, which is Healing the Empathic Overwhelm or Empathy Overwhelm. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But there's 3 things that happens with us. We have a genetic history that comes from our ancestry. We have a soul history that actually is our soul conscious, our higher conscious awareness. Those two marriage together, and that's what is the blessing of you into this world. And then once that comes forth and marriage happens, we are then shaped by the society, the culture, the family, the place on the planet, like where we grow up, and through our experiences moving forward in our life. And through those experiences and this combination of those three things, we create beliefs and programs, and we carry things from past lives, we carry things from past lives cosmically, we carry the emotions and things like that from our ancestors. We have a lot of ancestral things that come through, and they all get activated through the events that we have in our lives. And these create the lens that we see the world through. And so the lens that I saw the world through was really at contrast to my awareness of what was right for me. And this is what created the soul crisis. Because the only thing that I could not be true to my soul, but being true to my soul meant that I was in contrast, drastic contrast, with a negative feedback from my environment. And that's where the clash happened, and that's where I became uncomfortable. Now, it was different than earlier in my life. I had some mental health issues when I lost a lot of relatives in a relatively short period of time. That was a matter of processing death. It was loss. It was fueled by depression, and it was fueled by the struggles of early days in my career, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. It was very functionally material based, of trying to fit into, deal with heavy emotions. That was a mental health. Very different than the soul crisis, where who you are authentically on the inside is absolutely in opposition to the environment that's around you. Okay, so now, why this is so prevalent now? So mental health is like top 5, if not top 3, and has been at the absolute top a few times on the World Health Organization listing of the world's biggest health crisis. We have in this world a mental health crisis all over the world. And in the last events of the last few years has really heightened it. So what is causing this? There's a lot of the individuals are in contrast to our environment. So what has happened is we have reached a point in our development as a society, with our technology, with our way of living, and the amount of people on this property and on this earth, the amount of people, the amount of integration we have with each other. We are a global society, and we are not a bunch of different cultures and tribes and communities coming together. We are actually one big giant global community, and we're moving into that because of our technology ability and our interconnection with social media and stuff like that. And what this is causing, up until the last few years, we have been able, as this also has developed, we have been able to ignore where it didn't work. The majority of people on the planet can ignore the recycling and the garbage program because we ship it to a third world country that we just don't pay attention to. So we could ignore it. Well, that's in the media now. We're aware of it now. We can't deny that that's happening anymore. The medical industry has been really good at handling a crisis, but it has not been good at feeding a thriving health. It's for crisis health, not thriving health. And there's a lot of conflict within the health industry when you open that up to include alternative health. So there's a lot of contrast and warring within those communities, as one won't accept the other. And we've accepted this crisis medicine as a mainstream way to go due to profits, right? We've followed money. We've allowed money to dictate our morals, really, in developing this world. And it is money that has allowed us to ignore what is not working. We have denied and ignored, due to our social media, which is operated by money, It's directed by money, where the profits are. How do they get attention? They get attention through fear and crisis, right? So that's how they get viewers. So all of that has come together. Our food, we were able to ignore it before, but it has reached a point now where morally we have to start facing the fact that the world we have grown and developed has got many problems that need to be fixed. And it's over the last few years, it is really in our faces that we have to acknowledge this, and we have to, as a global community, start addressing this. And of course, everybody's not getting on the same page. And the channels of money are really causing greater division in multiple different ways. Okay. So I'm not going to go too much into that and everything, because that's for a whole different conversation. But what I want to talk about is we have to acknowledge that our food system is broken. There's a big problem there. All right, our food's got a lot of toxins in it. It's harming our body. The studies have not been done correctly. Our soil has been depleted. Our soils have been contaminated. We have to acknowledge that so our food is contaminated. Our health system is overwhelmed and broken down and not serving the people. The crisis has risen too big for the medical system to keep up to. Our politics, we've lost the trust in our politicians all over the world. Majority of people do not trust politicians anymore. Our political system has revealed that, power corrupts. We thought we had figured it out, but we didn't. There's the corruption is there, and we're seeing it. We cannot deny it anymore. We cannot deny that our education system is not serving our children. Most education systems in every country around the world is not serving the children. That we are not. The purpose of education is to produce functioning adults that contribute to our society. We're not doing that. Okay, we're not. Happy adults would be ideal. And so our education system is breaking down. Our politics, our education, our media, our communication systems, okay? Our social coherence is breaking down. There's a lot of division. There's a lot of ideals coming to the surface, and everybody's being polarized against each other. And again, this is a division that is being used to distract us so that we don't face and demand solutions to our real problems. And we are aware of this, okay? And that there's a contrast between who we authentically are, because people are good. No matter where they are in the spectrum of what's going on in the world, I really honestly believe people are good. We are souls having a human experience, and souls come from a source of love. So we're not here. We don't want to kill each other. We don't want to harm each other. We don't want to poison our children. We don't want to harm our children. We don't want to allow anybody else to harm and poison our children. We don't want these things to be happening. And it's now hit a crisis point due to our population and due to our technology. Okay, so that is one big part of it, is our inner selves are really seeing this contrast with the way our world. This is what I refer to as shadows being revealed. That's what's happening. So the next thing, there's another element to this. So we've got the contrast of the inner self to the outer self. Another thing that is playing out right now is, sorry, I'm trying to keep my thoughts here going. So we have our outer world and our bodies, our physical bodies are actually in a state where we require upgrading. So what do I mean by that? If you look at the last 100 years, our technology has really changed and our lifestyle has really changed. And the communities we live in now, our lifestyles that we live in now, we are required to process a lot more information at a lot faster speed than we ever have before in the past. Now, the amount of information that our brains process is only a fraction of the actual information our bodies are processing. So our five senses and our nervous system are actually processing the energies around us, which is everything is made of energy, right? So we are processing our environment through our five senses and through our nervous system, and we are actually needing to biologically, we are upgrading those systems, so they are becoming hypersensitive. It's just like a growing pain. When kids grow, a bone grows, it can hurt. Well, our nervous systems are hurting because they're growing and expanding in their sensitivity. This is actually empathy. Okay, empathy is the registration of this energy that's all around us, which, how do we process the information? So our nervous system processes it, our senses and our nervous system and everything, but they process it, most of the information is processed through our heart, through emotions, which is energy and motion. So we take all this information in through our nervous system and our senses, and it gets processed through the heart with emotion. And then that information that the heart, because the heart has more brain cells than the brain, it processes the information in the heart and it sends the information up our vagus nerve in through our pituitary and our pineal gland, and then it tells our brain what to do. And then it sends the messages. The brain will then send the messages out to the rest of the body. And there's twice as much information going from the heart to the brain than there is from the brain to anywhere else in the body. And now, for this particular purpose, I'm not going to go into the digestion, but there's brain cells in our digestion as well, which contributes to the environmental conflict that we're having. Okay, so the gut is really the environmental conflict. The heart is really the energy conflict, and the brain is what are we going to do about it? Okay, it's demanding. It's reaching to the point where we have to do something. That's why we're getting this emotional overwhelm thing happening, and our brain fog and stuff like that. So this is the crisis that is actually happening, and it all boils down to the soul crisis. Now, the soul, I'm actually running out of time. I wanted to keep this short. So that is why we're having this empathy overwhelm. It's a soul crisis, or an empathy overwhelm is another way of saying it. We are processing more emotion than we ever have. But there are things we can do to help our bodies upgrade to process this information and to nurture our system in developing. All right? It is amazing what science is now revealing that human bodies are capable of. I need to start wrapping this video up. Now, what I want to invite every single one of you to do is to download my free gift on healing empathy overwhelm. This is a program. It is not an ebook. It is not some video to read or whatever. It is actually a program because there is multiple aspects to it. There's videos, there's meditations, there's a workbook, ebook, all of that. It's a combination of stuff, multiples of them, to help you understand the science behind this, as well as helping you apply the techniques to open up your heart and to help your heart and your body expand out of this, expand itself so that we can upgrade and get over this empathy overwhelm that we're feeling, this soul crisis that we're going through. So please go and do that. And I also want to extend to every one of you, book a discovery call with me. There'll be a link on the program that I send you. There will be you can always go to my website, soulclarity.ca, check out my YouTube channel at Jennifer Quick, and you'll find a lot of information to help you through this. But reach out and book a discovery call. They're free. I'd love to chat with you and help you navigate the evolution that we're going through, because there's a chaos around us. There's a lot of outside pressure, and a lot of things have changed in recent years that has put a demand on our systems, and we need to reach out to each other for help in processing and expanding who we are. So I'm going to give you the tools, because I'm pretty sure I said I would do that in this video here. I'm going to give you the first thing, and it's actually, I'm going to expand on it later in the empathy program, but right now I want to tell you, it starts, so all this stuff that's happening on the outside, this media impact, all the observations we have of the conflicts in our world, and what is actually happening is the fear. It's all coming into our head, and it's causing us to have more of our energy up in our head, which is actually causing us to move into a fear state, a fight or flight state, which actually reduces the amount of energy flow, that is blood flow really, that is going through our brain and our entire body. So that is the first thing that we have to do in order to start moving out and to upgrading our system. So how do we do that? First, we start with the breath. So when we breathe deep into our body, filling all of our lungs, filling our abdomen, getting down into our body with our breath. That deep breath, that slow rhythmic breath, okay? This is where the exhale is longer than the inhale, all right? And it's deep. What that does is tells the body that it's safe. And so your entire system starts to relax when you do that, because it's letting you know you're safe at a physical level. So that's the first thing. Once you do some deep breathing, you also want to bring your awareness down into your heart. So most of us operate from here, but when you actually drop your awareness down to your heart, we start living more in the moment, and we start communicating from a more authentic place, from our soul, because our soul speaks from the heart. Okay, our human speaks from the mind. So we want to be soul-led, which is heart-led. So to get your awareness down to the heart, you do the breathing, put your hand on your chest, and focus. You can close your eyes so that your awareness is shutting out the world around you and it's going within. Because we want to go inside of ourselves with our awareness, and we want to bring that awareness. And so we close our eyes and we put our focus on our hand where our chest is, the beating of our heart, the expansion of our lungs as the breath goes in, and as the collapse as the breath goes out. And we stay in that moment. And it usually takes, in the beginning, it will take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. And somewhere in there, you will eventually notice that your whole system kind of drops down and shifts, and you feel this relaxation come into you. Beautiful. The third thing you do is, after that happens, after you drop down into your body, the third thing you do is you evoke an emotion of either care, compassion, appreciation, gratitude. One of those four. And doesn't matter what you need to think of, doesn't matter what the story is that you tell yourself to bring that emotion up. The only thing that matters is that you feel the emotion within us, within your heart. Okay? And now you get that emotion. When that emotion can be evoked, and it combines with this connection between your brain and your heart in an emotion of love. Well, actually, we like to use the word care, because there's a reason for that. Care, appreciation, compassion, and gratitude. Any one of those emotions. When we do that, that is when we become the entire frequency of our body. We start becoming into coherence with the mind, the heart, and the earth. And when we do that, we can move into an authenticity, a calmness, a clarity. That is your first step in getting through a soul crisis. All right. Again, download the free program, Healing Empathy Overwhelm. It's going to explain the science to you. It's going to give you the tools to do that. There's a meditation that helps you walk through that. It is the first step of how to go and start processing this empathy. Make an appointment with me. It is free. Discovery calls are free. There's a link to my calendar. Book an appointment and let's chat, and we'll see where you are and what you need in order to move forward on your path. Bless you all. I am so thankful that you actually made it to the end of this video, and I look forward to talking to you in the future. Love you all. Bye.